Picture yourself in Jerusalem. Summer. 2,000 years ago. You wake up covered in dust. Your clothes smell like sheep. Your hands are stained from last night's work. And you have exactly 3 liters of water for the entire day. That's 1 large bottle of water for drinking, for cooking, for washing your face, your hands, your feet, for cleaning your clothes. You're about to discover something the church never told you. Something that changes how you read every single story in the Bible. Because the answer to how did they stay clean isn't what you think. It's not just about water. It's not just about soap. It's about something far stranger. Section 1. The water problem. 0:30 to 2:30. Let's start with the hard numbers. Archaeologist Yonatan Adler from Ariel University spent years studying Jewish daily life in the Second Temple period. His research gives us a clear picture. The average person in ancient Israel had access to roughly 3 to 4 liters of water per day for all personal needs. That's from wells, cisterns, and springs. Compare that to the average American today, who uses around 300 liters per day. 300 versus 3. Do the math. You're not showering. You're not bathing. You're barely washing your hands. And here's where the tension gets specific. You have a family of 6. 1 clay jar of water. Maybe 10 liters total. Your children are thirsty. You need to cook dinner. Your husband comes home covered in field dust. Your own hands are sticky from grinding grain. Everyone needs water. There isn't enough. So what do you do? This is the question most Bible readers never ask. We read about foot washing. We read about ceremonial cleansing. We read about the bronze basin in the tabernacle. And we imagine people had enough water to actually use them the way we'd use a sink today. They didn't. That changes everything. And it leads us to the real answer. Because the ancients solved this problem. But their solution isn't what you'd expect. Section 2. The soap problem. 2:30 to 4:30. We call it soap. They didn't have it. Not the way we know it. No bars, no bottles, no foam. What they had was something called borit in the Hebrew text. The prophet Malachi mentions it. Jeremiah mentions it. It's a cleansing agent made from plant ash mixed with oil. Archaeologist Mordechai Kislev from Bar-Ilan University studied ancient soap-like substances from Israel. The formula was simple. Burn certain plants until you get ash. Mix that ash with olive oil. The chemical reaction creates a basic alkali that cuts grease and dirt. But here's the catch. This wasn't soap like you'd buy at the store. It was harsh. It dried out your skin. And it was expensive to make. So most people didn't use it every day. Instead, they used abrasives. Sand, pumice stone, a rough cloth. They scraped the dirt off their skin. They rubbed their hands with dirt and rinsed. Then they rubbed again. Historian Jody Magnus from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill points out something fascinating. The rich had access to imported bathing oils from Greece and Rome. The poor had ash and sand. But there's something else. Something the archaeological record reveals that most people miss. The mikvayot, the ritual baths. Hundreds of them have been excavated across Israel. Every major city had several. They're carved into bedrock. They hold rainwater. They're deep enough to fully submerge a person. And they reveal a distinction that's absolutely critical to understanding the Bible. A distinction most modern readers completely miss. Section 3. Clean versus pure. 4:30 to 6:30. Here's the thing. The Hebrew text uses 2 different concepts, and they're not the same. Tahor and tameh. Ritually pure and ritually impure. But also, naki. Physically clean. Modern English translations blur them together. They use clean for both. But the original language keeps them separate. You could be physically dirty and ritually pure. You could be physically clean and ritually impure. The mikveh was not for getting clean. It was for getting pure. Archaeologist Ronnie Reich, who excavated dozens of mikvot in Jerusalem, made a key observation. These baths have no drainage system for dirty water. The water sits there. It's not replaced after each use. Think about that for a second. You're supposed to immerse yourself in standing rainwater, water that dozens of people have already used. If this were about physical cleanliness, it would be the worst solution imaginable. But it wasn't about physical cleanliness. It was about ritual purity. So how did they actually get physically clean? The answer is, they didn't. Not the way we do. And this is where the Bible starts to make a lot more sense. Especially one specific practice that seems strange to modern readers. Section 4, the foot washing problem, 6:30 to 8:30. Let's look at foot washing. In the Gospel of John, Jesus washes his disciples' feet, and Peter protests, "You shall never wash my feet." Modern readers tend to spiritualize this. It's about humility, it's about service, and it is.
Yes, Lord.
But there's a practical layer we miss. In first century Israel, foot washing was not optional. It was the first thing that happened when you entered a home, because your feet were caked with mud, animal waste, dust, and who knows what else from the road. And here's the detail that changes everything. The person who washed your feet was the lowest servant in the household. Not a family member, not a guest, not even a regular servant. The lowest. Why? Because feet were disgusting. Not symbolically. Actually, physically disgusting. Scholar Catherine Hezer from SOAS University of London notes that foot washing was considered so demeaning that Jewish law exempted Jewish slaves from doing it for their masters. You had to hire a non-Jewish servant for that task. And here's the practical reality. You washed only your feet, not your whole body, not your arms, not your face. You washed the part that touched the road. The rest of you stayed dirty. And that was normal. That was daily life. The Bible's characters were not walking around clean by our standards. They were dusty, sweaty, and smelly. And everyone around them was too. Section 5. The full picture. 8:30 to 10. So let's put this together. You wake up. You have 3 litres of water. You use half a litre to wash your hands and face. You use another half litre to rinse your mouth. You have 2 litres left for the day. You go to work. You sweat. You get dusty. You touch animals. You touch dirt. You touch food. You come home. You wash your hands with sand and a little water. You wash your feet because you have to. You don't change clothes because you only have one set. You eat. You sleep. You repeat. And on Friday, before the Sabbath, you might go to the mikveh, not to get clean, to get pure, to enter the Sabbath in a state of ritual readiness. The water is cold. It's shared. It's not soapy. You immerse fully. You come out dripping. You dry off with a cloth. You put on your one set of clothes, which are probably not clean either. And that was the week. Section 6. The honest take, 10 aus to 11. Honestly, this bothers me. I grew up reading the Bible and imagining these heroic figures. David, Ruth, Peter, Paul. I pictured them clean, like us, like people who showered and used deodorant and brushed their teeth. They didn't.
I wish I could change this.
They were constantly dirty, constantly uncomfortable,
I really do.
constantly aware of their bodies in a way we are not. And that changes how I read the text. When Jesus offers living water to the Samaritan woman at the well, she's not just thirsty, she's dirty. She's exhausted from carrying heavy jars of water every single day. She knows exactly how much work it takes to stay even minimally clean. When the psalmist says, "Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow," that's not a metaphor about a quick rinse. That's a desperate cry from someone who knows what real dirt feels like. And that brings us to next week's video. Because if you think hygiene was hard, wait until you find out what they did about the other problem. The one nobody talks about in church. ancient toilets. What archaeology actually
Baruch
reveals
Hashem.
about the most private moment in biblical life. You won't believe what they used instead of toilet paper.